Live from ESP Exceptional Suspension Products in which city are we in? Which country? La Crescenta, California. I'm here with George Capodici.
Perfect.
Yeah, I had a hard time spelling his name. In fact, I couldn't spell it because for years it's been spelled wrong in my phone. So when I call him or his name pops up, it's a mess. And I can't spell anyways. That's why I was an editor, not a real motorcycle racer. So we are doing a Tech Talk Taco Thursday. This would be the first one of those. But this is the fill-in for a Tech Talk Taco Tuesday when I can't make it on Tuesday. Maybe I'll be out riding, which is what I like to do. And we are going to answer your suspension and motorcycle suspension related questions tonight as much as we can. We're going to get in a little bit of motorcycle suspension history with George, who's been doing this for how long?
1977. 1977.
There we go, right up next to that microphone. You're going to have to slide forward to that thing.
You got it.
So we're all on the same level. Hopefully everybody can hear George okay. I'm going to call up my computer. This is the first time I've done the this location here, so we're trusting the internets. If not, of course, like always, it's going to get uploaded and put on YouTube, and you can share it with your friends and do all the stuff that you're supposed to do so that more people see this and it might actually become a real thing, not just a screwy little show Jimmy talking to a Mevo camera. And where is the live feed coming up? There it is. Look at that. I found it. I'm good, and I've got the sound turned off, which is my mistake I make every week. But I didn't do that this time. So, George, 42 years. Where did you start at? This is where we met.
Scott's Performance, Montrose, California.
Yeah, so Scott Forward, a good friend of mine also. And I'm still to this day trying to figure out how I ran into Scott, got hooked up with Scott. Because was I riding Yamahas back then? When I first started bringing stuff, was it Yamahas or KTMs?
I think it was KTMs.
KTMs. Okay. So, and you told me why you said, why are you riding those junk bikes?
Back then.
Yeah. So again, closer to the mic.
Yeah. Back then, would you have a 13 millimeter wrench and a 11 millimeter wrench to work on them?
KTM introduced me to the 13 millimeter wrench. That was for sure. And it was an oddity back then, but you just used a 1/2 inch. It looked like a 12, but it just worked differently.
Agree.
Dave Donatoni taught me that. So I'm going to boost your sound up just a tad. Hopefully. Oh, good. Mike, sounds great. Mike, we're going to get you in here one of these times. We'll talk dirt rider history. We'll turn over some leafs about those times. Okay, so I remember I actually had KTM. There was actually a Jim Lewis at KTM. He was working down at El Cajon, and Tom Moen and Jim Lewis were the two guys kind of back in the shop prepping magazine bikes and working on race bikes at the time. And I was a factory 125 desert racer.
Correct.
And back when they used to do that level of support right out of the importer's office in California, and I'd worked with Jim a little bit in kind of developing a setting because I was riding this thing called a MX, or it was actually a DXC at the time. The bike was desert racing, and we kind of worked. He was more of a motocross or supercross guy, and we worked on kind of getting a setting. And because the bike, I think, essentially at that time just had the motocross suspension on it, or maybe it had the enduro suspension. I don't remember what it started with because it was kind of a hybrid of the two bikes. And I don't think we got it better, but never great. And somehow Scott said, "Hey, we do suspension," and I think it was like right after I rode the very first Unix steering damper.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I tested with Paul Osbo and Kenny Perry, and we rode the Unic. And so Scott said, "Why don't you bring your suspension down? We can do it." And I remember you saying, why don't you go race a Kawasaki or something? And I'm like, this bike's badass. These are going to be good. So you made that bike work good. Ask anybody who had to race against me.
I like it. And I remember you going to Glen Helen and racing like Friday night motocross with it too, and winning some money.
Oh yeah, yeah. And actually, that was at a it was at a rinky-dink fairgrounds out in Ridgecrest. I think they had like because I was doing like a European scrambles on Saturday, and then in between Saturday and Sunday, I went in and rode like 125 pro class, and I was horrible at motocross. I'd lost all my motocross skills. So
I think this was a Friday night.
it could have been. I used to go
Friday
to
night, and it was Glen
Helen.
Helen.
Yeah,
And I was on my way to Barstow, and I'd swing by there and watch you race and watch you collect some money.
Yeah, could have been. It's the memory. I've hit my head on the ground too many times to remember that. So
What year are we talking?
90. I started racing for them in my first KTM was an 89 125. That's what they gave me to start with, and then in 90 I had a whole bunch of bikes. I mostly 125s out of 250, and you did all of them. And I remember. I got kind of a weird taste when you said, "Why don't you ride a Kawasaki?" And I'm like, it's just a shock and a fork, right? They all kind of look the same inside, but it was WP stuff, and I don't think you'd had a ton of WP experience until then.
Not at that time.
Yeah. So, but it didn't take long, and we had really, really good suspension. I mean, it was, I always said that my KTM 125s were by far and away some of the best bikes that I ever raced, largely because the motors were just so stinking fast. But then we got the suspension working good, and and from doing the stuff that you did to get it to work better. And I don't remember specifically what we changed, but I could say I want 15% more initial stiffness, and I want this much more bottoming, and bang, the shock would come back, and it was really close. All the clickers would be in the middle, and I'd ride it, and it was close, and I'd adjust the clickers, and then next time I take it back for a service, the clickers would be back in the middle, and it'd work exactly like where I'd adjusted it to.
It's all about good input.
Yeah. So yeah, it was super easy to communicate with you, and then you started figuring out like the strong points of the shocks and the forks, what they were good at and what they weren't good at. And it was never like, oh, we have to put, this widget or that thing, or we have to coat them this color or
No gimmicks.
Yeah.
Gimmicks.
No. And in doing that, and then having the access to, at the time I was testing for all the magazines, so I got to ride all the other bikes, and I got to ride factory bikes at the time. I rode factory suspension back then on different bikes, and going, my stuff works just as good, and it's mostly it's stock parts largely. I don't think we did. Do we ever do special coatings?
I don't think so. Because that shock was a steel body back then.
Yeah.
I can remember a time, I think you and Danny were racing a score race, and you were going down the road about 100 miles an hour watching the chrome fork tube.
Oh, no.
away.
Yeah, that came unscrewed. Well, you didn't work on that.
Thank God.
No, you didn't work on that one. That was, I don't know where we had that. I think that might have been done in-house at KTM. The one that...
Forgot the Loctite.
I don't know what... That was bad. That was sketchy. We would have won that race. Yeah, okay, so maybe some of it's on me. I rode that bike off a cliff earlier in the race.
Yeah, but it shouldn't unscrew.
Yeah, your fork should never go unscrewed from the lower. It's really sketchy when you look down and you see a tube that used to be 40 some odd millimeters big that's now like 13 millimeters big.
Little skinny rod holder.
You get some head shake or some flop inside of that. So yeah, you weren't responsible for that. That cost us.
But let's see if I remember the story right. You pulled over, you threaded it back in. You took off again. And it started doing it again.
Came out. Yeah.
So then I think you pulled over and grabbed a handful of dirt,
silt. Yeah.
and threw it in there, and then tried to grind it back in.
Yeah, I got it started, and then I threw dirt into it, and I just ground it back in. It held. I don't know. I think it came out right before the finish again. It came out one last time, like when I was going about 90 down one of those roads in Ojos, and at that time I'd already been passed. And I'm like, what the hell are you doing? But you don't think when you're that age, you just twist the throttle and go.
That's crazy.
So, yeah, Baja stories. So I gotta ask a question here. We got a few questions coming coming in. If you guys have questions, go ahead and ask them on the chat room, and we will try to get them answered because George can answer. Where's the tacos and tequila? Well, we'll answer that question right away. Tonight, brought to you by Karma Tequila. Can you see that? I think that should show up on the thing. Or it's brought to me. George doesn't drink, but he said he would like to have a sip. So no tacos. I went on a mountain bike ride, and I'm trying to get rid of my camel front, so I don't need any tacos right now. Maybe after this, we can. Don't you have a really good Mexican restaurant here?
Oh, we've got them all over.
Okay, that's a good place. So we'll get to your questions. If you have some suspension questions here, we'll dive down on those a little bit. But I want to know. Okay, so what I do remember when I was a young kid reading motorcycle magazines, there was this ad for Scott's, and there's a picture of a Scott in a lab coat, and
Next to the dyno?
in front of the shock dyno, and which I don't know. I might just be. It was a chicken rotisserie machine that you just hung a shock inside of, or it was a physical real shock dyno.
It was the real deal. We purchased it from Steve Simons.
Oh, okay.
Who eventually
Simon's
started.
Fork, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And he came down, brought the dyno, and set it all up for us. And Scott was on a vacation or something, so I got a crash course on how to run a dyno. And Steve Simons is a rocket scientist kind of guy.
But that was always the everybody go, does he really have a dyno back there? Is that how they do all the testing and stuff? And I'm like, I don't know. I mean, I saw it back there for a while. I don't know if I ever saw it in operation.
We did. We used it, and it's like a micrometer for measuring tolerance or something. It's you put a shock on there, and you would graph how the shock dampened and the rates and the speed, and you when we used it, we learned what shims, different thickness shims, affected how the shock worked.
Yeah.
And or you change the end shim. You learn how a shock works.
So you could see a graphical representation of a change.
Exactly.
As opposed to a test rider coming back and saying this does this or this does that, which is kind of more of an artistic impression of the change.
Exactly. It's a measuring device, and once you catch on to what the shims do or the diameters, you have a pretty shocks are. I mean, to me, a shock's a shock.
Yeah.
And if you don't get real confusing with them or triple shim stacks and stuff like that, you keep it basic. You can understand it and predict how it's going to work.
Yeah, and most of the stock shock stacks are pretty basic, you would say, yes?
Oh, absolutely. There are maybe 2 shim stacks in there.
Yeah.
And I used to always talk to Ross from Enzo Racing.
Yep.
And I'd be like, Ross, I'm taking apart this bike that you just sent out, because I want to learn. And you've got these shims stacked the opposite way. What are you doing? And he'd just start laughing. And you go, I'm just playing around with you guys that are checking my stuff. It doesn't really do anything.
Yeah, it's shims that are ineffective. They're so far into the stack.
Exactly. Yeah. Or he'll stack them backward, start with a small one and stack it backwards, but it's at the end and it has no effect.
Yeah.
And he just start, Ross.
And I know, absolutely. And by the way, if you can follow Ross Maeda on Facebook, he tells some awesome stories. You don't check?
I follow him.
Yeah. He tells some historic stories. And so Ross is Enzo Racing. He's also the main guy for Kayaba here in the United States. I've worked with Ross before. He's kind of like you. He's like, why are you riding that stupid KTM? He did that to me at Carlsbad. Like, why are you riding that stupid thing? I'm like, because it's good. He's like, it can't be good. Oh, this is in PDS. He saw me riding something with PDS. He's like, it can't be good. I'm like, no, it's really good. I'm like, you should ride it. He's like, I don't even want to try it. I don't even want to get near it.
He's good. He keeps everything real basic, and he's a smart guy.
Yep. Yeah. So just for maybe some of you, if we're talking over some people's head with the shims and stuff. So inside of a shock, you're pushing a piston through oil. That's what's happening inside your shock, inside of your forks, and you're essentially getting some damping resistance from the spring,
Correct.
But that's only one part of it. And what really controls the damping is the piston going through the oil.
Correct.
And then there's different pistons, different holes through the pistons. And when the oil flows through that piston, then you use shims on the back side of it to control how the oil flows through because the shims flex and allow oil to go through. And I think it's an art.
You just got to be very basic. You got to keep it simple.
Yeah.
And I always try to tell myself, the springs to hold the bike up, and that's static.
Yep.
You know, how the bike's going to hold up. And then I always think of the dampening as dynamic when the bike's rolling and hitting the bumps.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
That makes sense. I mean, it's just I kind of blend them all together, and if one's right and the other one's not, it doesn't. They have to work together because I want to get into this with just some common mistakes and things and set up things, just how people could, what they can learn from someone like you that sees this all the time. So we'll kind of get into more setup, but it is like I said, I've found, and I always tell everybody, because I'm perfect, stock bikes work really good for me for the most part. I mean, you can nitpick them, but I get, especially when my colleagues, other journalists, or quote test riders or Insta influencers hop on a bike and go, this thing's too stiff, or this thing does this or that, and generally it's like I watch the disease spread because maybe somebody who's perceived as being more intelligent about this stuff will say something, and then all of a sudden it just goes off this train tracks, like that bike is going down the train tracks and someone says it's too stiff, and all of a sudden 5 people that are there that are going to write about it hear it, and all of a sudden it's too stiff when actually it's not too stiff. It's like maybe you just need to adjust the clickers. And 9 out of the 10 people that complain it's stiff never even tried playing with the clickers or adjusting the ride height, especially if they have to do it themselves, because if there isn't a technician there to do it for you, I mean, it's not magic. It doesn't do it by itself.
How about an owner's manual?
Those are amazing. Have you ever read one of those?
Incredible.
I mean, people ask me all the time. It's like, hey, I pull them out and look at them. I mean, the tuning tips and the setup tips in the current manuals these days, especially in the competition,
excellent.
It could put you out of business, George.
I worry about it. I mean,
they're really good at explaining. You got to start start with the ride height. And on one of my previous Tech Talk Taco Tuesdays, when I was going to talk about suspension, I finally got to it like 2 minutes to the end of the show, and I said, "Oh yeah, we got to talk about it." I'm like, "Set your ride height, set your sag." It's correct. It's super critical, and this is where I kind of disagree with a lot of guys. That's just a number. You're going to set it. And you've just got to be consistent about setting it the way you do it all the time. I watched you guys do it with a customer today, and you had a guy, hop on the bike and stand on it, which is good because he's putting all his weight on the foot pegs, and at least all his weight. Well, he was kind of leaning on the handlebars a little bit, which bothered me, but that's probably the way he rides.
Well, when we watch him, we'll compensate. It's hard to tell.
Yeah, I watched you. And there's a reason why Bud was standing over there doing what he was doing, and you had him bounce up and down, and you watched the front and rear, and I'm like, I actually hadn't seen that technique before. And I'm going, that's super smart. That's a really good way to you're doing the ride height, and then you're also watching the suspension to make sure it's moving consistently. And you had done some valving and spring changes. This guy is a bigger guy, and I'm like going, that's a really smart way to do it. But so when I tell people to set their ride height, set it to the manufacturer's specs. But however you set it at that point, the way you're sitting on the bike or balancing yourself or having your friend balance you, and you take that measurement, you got to take the measurement from the same spot.
Correct.
Which is a lot of people do it, and it doesn't matter exactly where you take it. And I've had people say you can't take it from there, and I'm like, yes, I can, because it's going to be consistent. The rate may change, but I've got a number, and now I'm at the quote manufacturer's recommended. This is the way the bike's supposed to work, and then I go, is it working good? And do I want more weight on the front or more weight in the rear? And then that number becomes sort of adjustable, just like your forks can slide up and down in the tubes and all these other things. But start there.
Yeah, and my recommendation with SAG is too, say you set it at the manufacturer's recommendation, and they tell you 100 millimeters, and you're riding the bike and you're getting head shake or something.
Yep.
So pull over and unwind the spring a turn.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You got to go by your own feel too.
Yeah, and so that's the starting point, and then you can make adjustments, and then when you get it good, take the measurement again,
write it down,
and that's your sag. That's your thing. It works good for me here. And then generally, let's say they recommend 100 and you find yourself at 90. For some reason you like...
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, 90. So the next bike you're on, or if you ever do another bike and you set it at 100, it doesn't work. I bet you if you go to 90, however the way you measure it, because you're just going to you're balancing out, you're getting it to the way it's going to work. And I see so many people that the first thing they're complaining about how their bike works, how their suspension works. And I go, what's the sag? And they're like,
He sits on it, and there's 2 inches to the tire.
And then on your side, you guys are also checking when you get the shocks in here, how much spring preload is on the... You're measuring the spring preload so you understand. Like Bud was like, how come your spring was so cranked down on the... So they just did our Honda CR450X, our long-term bike, because I had a 240-pound guy riding it. And luckily I was able to answer that question, or Bud would look at me like, you're an idiot.
Correct. Correct.
So... But that's the one thing to start with is sag, ride height, making sure you're set there, and then you can start playing with compression, rebound adjustment.
I prefer to do compressions. Mm-hmm. I leave the rebound stock first.
Yep.
Because rebound's just real confusing, and it's hard to you got to get the compression right and the sag right.
Yep. So compression's the next thing to play with.
Yeah.
And softer isn't always softer, right?
That is correct. Yeah. But for older guys like me, my wrists are beat up. I like a soft fork.
They make flex bars for that.
They do.
And you know what? I'll tell you, it's going to put you out of business here. I'm best advertising. Flex bars makes bad forks feel good.
Mr. Townsend, huh?
Yeah. So I have bad wrists too. So, okay, keep going. So
yeah, you have to, you do the compression, you get the compression, the sag dialed in, and then you can start playing with rebound.
Yeah.
And, if the bike's kicking you a little, but most guys tend to run their shock too stiff, and then they compensate for the kicking with the rebound. They keep turning the rebound in.
Slowing it down. Which makes it kick more sometimes.
And then it starts chattering more and more.
So when I'm feeling a bike, I usually get a feel for the compression first. I mean, I don't change it. I get a feel for, now we're talking about compression, and sometimes and a lot of times I can feel it just on the bike, but a lot of times you have somebody else watching and you go, hey, that bike's riding low in the stroke, and then we come into high speed compression here also. Yeah. So when it starts getting low in the stroke, we start calling that packing, or gets in a stiffer part of the stroke, and then you have to start asking, is my spring too soft? Is the compression down to, where it's allowing it to kind of travel in that lower thing? And so a lot of times, if it feels stiff because it's low, then for me, I would open the rebound up to get it to ride up, or
let it recock itself, get higher up,
or run a little bit more high speed compression. And high speed compression for me, you can feel it when you go too far, either direction, you can start feeling the shock do funny stuff. But for me, high-speed compression raises the ride height when you're in motion.
Dynamic,
yeah.
And I totally agree.
It holds the bike up higher. It feels like it holds the bike higher in the stroke, which actually stiffening the high-speed compression a lot of times can make the bike feel softer.
Because you're at the top of the leverage. So your shock shaft moves 1 millimeter at the top of the stroke. Your rear axle moves 7 millimeters. You move down 3 inches in sag, and the leverage ratio goes 1 millimeter at the shaft, but maybe 3.5 millimeters at the rear axle. Yeah. So you lose the mechanical advantage. So the higher the shock, the higher the rear end is, the softer the stroke.
Yeah. And you think, well, then why don't we have bikes with way, way more travel? Because then all of a sudden you start getting squatty or yaw or, transferring, and the trend lately is to begin to make them kind of stiffer and lower and longer, which doesn't help for, bump compliance. And especially with a lot of the bikes now coming out that are based off of a motocross bike in, a lot of chassis design, we're starting to lose. If you would have brought out a 2019 KTM EXC in 2000 and 5, let's say,
Okay.
you know, were they just starting to get stiff? Mm-hmm. We would complain to high hell about how stiff that bike was.
Agree. Totally agree.
It's like that's like almost like an SX setting was back then. The EXC setting is now, but we just slowly adapted. You know, over the years we've adapted to that, and you've even seen this because I bring in a lot of my older stuff here that he works on, and I pay him, and he sets it up a lot of my rental bikes.
Very cheap price.
So I'm paying for the best. I bring it here for a reason because I know it's going to come back the way that we want it, and it's going to be good. So every time I bring the older stuff in, it's like, hey, make it a little bit stiffer.
Agree. You do that.
Yeah, it's like, and I'm slowly, and I'm an old guy. I'm getting old, but I like, hey, make it a little bit stiffer, you know, because I want it to ride.
It up.
Yeah, I want it to ride better and do that. So, anyways, so there's dynamic changes of these bikes over the years. Things have, you know, definitely. I say it's definitely improving, but sometimes we go over the edge, and then here's where, you know, you come in. It's like, hey, I want it to ride like my old 2002 400R, you know, EXC.
Time to soften it up.
Yeah.
These bikes are crazy stiff.
Yeah.
Even like a new KTM factory edition or something.
Yeah.
It's like it's got huge washers in there for shims. It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think they're asking they're asking the shock to do a lot more work. You know, people are just not, they don't want them to bottom out so easy, and it just the chassis are getting so stiff that the suspension has to be stiff, you know, to match it.
Yeah, that Pala National, did you see those guys flat, you know, hitting that jump and just almost hitting the face of the next jump? What was that, 90 feet?
I watched that, but you know what's funny is I do watch that, and I watch how careful they are about downsiding the backside of a, you know, they don't go 10 feet too far or 10 feet too short. They land right. I mean, and it makes a big difference because you see when they do come up short, then you see the body collapse. When they land where they're supposed to land, they're in the attack position the whole way. They don't flex. The suspension does all the work.
How can you do that though? Your energy level.
Trust your bike. Trust your bike.
Amazing.
Yeah. So, anyway, so we talked about kind of like and I always tell people, don't be afraid to play with your clickers. I mean, they're it's not like they're not like one-time use.
Correct.
They and you can take it and go 5 clicks one direction and ride it, you know, pretty quickly. Ride it someplace and then take the 5 clicks back out. Ride the same section and see how it feels. Maybe try 10 clicks if you don't feel it. You know, go ahead and experiment it because it goes both ways. You're not going to hurt anything. Just don't be like some people and tighten it all the way up. Like, it's loose, I'm going to tighten it. I've met those guys before. They say their suspension's horrible, and they tightened all the loose screws on their shock.
I think they've got gloves on, and they're all amped up, and then they tighten it, and then it's stuck.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, that happened a lot in the old days, especially what was the ones that stuck? Was it the old?
The KTM, the rebound adjusters get rusty.
Okay.
And then they're stuck, and then there's an hourglass piece in there that snaps off. Oh, okay. And then it just has infinite adjustment. I mean, infinite spinning, but no adjustment.
Yeah, whatsoever. So, but I'd say go ahead and play with it to get a feel. And that's when I very first started testing motorcycles for Dirt Bike Magazine back in 87. I'm sorry, 87. 125 shootout, and that was the first time I really got to go and it was mostly a photo shoot. They didn't really do a whole lot of testing, but I thought they were really test riders, so I wanted to be a test rider. So I went out and took my bike out and I played with all this stuff. So when they asked me, can it be better or what would you do? I would know what it was. So I did that. I turned my adjuster all the way in and all the way back out and rode it and tried different things and played around with it to learn what it kind of felt like, and I still do that to this day. I'm not as picky as some of my friends, you know, the Dave Donatoni specifically. It just it's like you stop any place and he's got the screwdriver out and it's like, Dave, what are you doing? He's like, I'm just gonna fix it, just tune a little bit, but it helps.
Let me ask you a question.
Yes.
Before you turn your clickers, do you take notes where they are?
Me, because I ride so many bikes, what I do is I get and I write down the stock settings on the shock and the fork themselves in a felt tip marker, and then I don't count. I just go by feel. Which
is perfect, but you have to document where they are.
Yeah, and the manual is really good at doing that, you know. And most bikes that you buy come with the manual.
You just got to read it.
But I'll write down the stock settings and I just go and play with it. And then when I get lost, when I'm like, I don't know if it's any better, I check it. Where am I at? And then I write that down. Usually on the phone now. So I have a phone. For every bike, I have a file, and I write down where I'm at. I put it back to stock and ride it, then put it back to my setting, and I ride it. I go, okay, now I know. Is it either better or worse, or I went down this rabbit hole of I completely screwed up, and you can always go back to stock, and then it's just the way it was delivered. And
you got to do that so you can see what the bike's going to do.
And if you have a good suspension tuner, you give your shock with your setting to that guy, and he should be able at that point like interpret a little bit of what's going on. And then because people say, I need to get my suspension valve. I go, what are you going to have them do? And they're going, well, they're going to make it better.
Not the latest setting.
Yeah, I know. I say, what are you going to do? They're going to make it better. I'm like, better how? And they're, well, I'm going to send it to, whatever the flavor of the month is, or whatever they read in some magazine or something. I mean, that's great. You're going to send it someplace. But I always say, unless you can tell that guy something, what you want, or you've got your clickers in a certain spot and you want to bring it back to the middle, or, I want to say, just give them some direction. Have some idea what you kind of want, because you send it to them and you go, well, I'm 165 pounds and I'm 5'10", and I'm on this KTM 350, and it's like, they designed that bike for you.
Pretty much. When someone calls me and does what you're saying,
yeah,
first thing I do is go, hey, what do you weigh?
Yeah.
How tall are you?
Yeah.
Where are you riding? What are you doing? And if the guy tells you he's 175, 180 pounds, pretty hard to, change the bike unless he's riding, say he rides in rocks all the time.
Yeah.
And it depends on the model of the bike. You want to make it.
If it's a motocross bike and he's just told you all this stuff, and it's a motocross bike and he's riding in rocks, there's definitely something you can do. You don't have to say any more, right?
Exactly. But you got to plush it out a little.
But this guy's riding the motocross bike on the motocross track, and he's the ideal weight and probably the right height. I mean, if it's a really tall guy, then they're a bigger pendulum. There's stuff going on there. Shorter guy, different.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Plus, then my next question, would be, what don't you like? You're going to pay me all this money, but you got to tell me, what don't you like? What's this bike doing that you don't like?
Yeah.
Is it throwing you around in the braking bumps, or, is it kicking you off the jumps? What's it doing?
Make it better.
Yeah. Well, but they got to give you some input. Otherwise, what do you do?
I want it better.
You want it better.
Okay. So I'm just playing devil's advocate here. Would you ask, like, when was the last time it was serviced?
You do that too, and it's got 200 hours on it.
Oh, I can make it better. I got a setting for you.
Then you got to take the shock apart and open all the doors and windows, because it's going to stink.
If I had a suspension shop, George, and somebody bought me a brand new bike, I would put my sticker on it. And I'd have them pay for the revalve that I didn't do. I'd put the sticker on, especially if it was brand new. I'd just squirt a little oil on it, and I'd say free revalve, and service for the next time if you don't like this.
Free revalve and service.
Yeah, after they pay you the first time,
okay,
but you wouldn't do anything.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're going to make him just go ride it and get some input.
Actually, break it in, because I want to get that the stock oil out of there after 20 hours. I was joking today, because the bikes are in there were brand new.
2019, FE 501s.
Yeah, they're 501s. They're sweet.
But the gentleman was 330 pounds.
Yeah. So right away, he needs bigger springs. So he can't even ride the stock bike at that weight. I mean, he can, but it would be horrible. He should have paid me to go ride his brand new bikes for like 10 or 15 hours just to get the oil flowing through there, and then that'd be his first service, and then be semi broken in. And
then he could give me what did he tell me? Okay, it's bottoming. It's bottoming real bad, front and rear.
No, I was going to ride it. I was just going to say that bike's perfect.
You're correct, but not for his son with the matching bike was a little smaller. Junior was 322.
Okay, yeah.
And a little taller than Dad.
And when you go throw springs on for that level of weight, which can be done, you also have to adjust the damping, especially the rebound. Yeah.
Correct. You could just put springs on it, but you want to match. You want to up the valving too.
Yeah.
You know, because you got a spring that's pushing it back pretty quick now. You know, for every action, there's an opposite and equal reaction.
Correct.
You know, and you bump the spring rate up 100 pounds, you're going to need to slow the. You don't want to pitch them off the back of the bike.
And same thing when you go lighter on the springs. Exactly the same thing in opposite direction.
Correct. You know, and it depends how much you go. If it's a person that you're going one rate on spring, you can do that with clickers.
Yeah, I say it's 2 for me when I've played around with this stuff. It's 2 to 3 spring rates, and then it needs to be done inside. Like 3 for sure, almost.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it depends where the guy girl or guy rides on the bike.
Yep.
You know, some people just, they don't like that bike rebounding quick, and they got a stiffer spring on there that you got to beef it up a little.
Yeah. And then that's a good that could keep you busy. There's a lot of guys that are not like me, perfect in height and weight and everything else like that. I'm running a little on the heavy side right now, hence me riding the mountain bike today, try to lose a little bit of it. But
when did I meet you? How old were you? Washboard stomach?
19, probably.
How times change, huh?
That's the problem right there. I could just stop doing that.
I had to stop doing that 10 years ago, and I'm still getting what's going on with the metabolism.
Yeah. Okay, so we got through the shock dyno. I know what I want you to tell me. Tell me the difference, and you don't have to use any names, just between a good customer and a bad customer. And this is a public service announcement for any kind of a shop and things like that. Like, what? Oh, we should go pick up that YZ400 shock that's over there right now. That'd be a great customer. No, so what are some of the things just off the top of your head that you cringe when you see rolling in, as far as the bad customer or the good customer? Like, clean, obviously clean bikes that are clean when they come in, just.
I don't mind a dirty bike.
Oh.
Say a guy goes to the track and he's got a window of opportunity to bring it to me. The good guys call, hey, I just came from the track. I need some work done. My bike's dirty. And the good guys,
yeah,
I'll stop at the pressure washer, but I don't have time.
Yeah.
I'm like, bring it in, it takes me 10 minutes. I like washing. I like dirt bikes. I like washing them. You know what I mean? That's part of my job.
Yeah.
But the bad customer's the guy that doesn't tell you the truth. He tells you rebuilt his carburetor and it's been a year and the bike sat. And
it doesn't work again?
And it doesn't work again. And you should warranty that. You need to pull that carburetor out of the aluminum framed Yamaha FCR MX carb and rebuild it again for no charge because he let it sit for another year. He got busy. Those are hard.
Yeah. Because you want to be nice, but you want to say what you really think. I say what I really think to people a lot of times, and then people they call me a word. It starts with an A.
Yeah, I've been called that, but I'll tell you one thing. I've got this really cool cell phone now. You can FaceTime. You can you pull the guy's carburetor apart and you take a picture of it and send it to him. And it looks
the green. I learned it's not algae inside of the carb.
What is that?
I've got a call with the Chevron guys, the chemical Tuesday at 9. I'm going to call. It's a. He explained it to me, but I was driving. But we're going to do a call with some of their lab technicians about one of their fuel additives. Because I had a bunch of really interesting. He was blown away by some of the questions. Yeah, that green goop.
So this was today.
Yeah, flash that up onto the screen here. We're going to hold that up there. That's a carburetor with a lot of green goop in it.
So that's a carburetor we cleaned 4 months ago. And, the guy promised me he would ride it after we did it. And guess what? It sat in the garage and it's been the rainy season.
Yeah.
And then, you bring the bike back and it's whatever that stuff's called now, the fungus.
It's from the brass. The green color is a little bit from the brass.
Sort of like your toilet bowl.
I guess
Or wait,
so.
your toilet tank bowl.
Toilet tank, yeah. So but I'm going to learn all about that because I want to know, because like the fuel is so bad these days, with the ethanol, and we've been messing around with some fuel additives, stabilizers, been kind of doing some tests that may or may not be accurate. This is what I wanted to talk to him about. I was literally hanging pilot jets inside of glass jars by a wire, kind of like simulating the inside of a carburetor bowl, to kind of watch what was happening and see which ones gummed up and which additives were working. So I'm going to learn whether that was a good test or not. And then they had some other ideas for ways we could try to do things. But we talked about that because I was told it was kind of an algae, especially now with the ethanol, which attracts water. Right? It evidently attracts 100 times more water than gasoline. Ethanol does
through the plastic gas tank or
through,
the vent.
through everywhere. And there's a lot of there's a lot of moisture. If you're in a humid environment, there's a ton of moisture in the air to begin with.
Yeah.
And it absorbs it and it puts it in places. And I was told it was actually, somebody told me it was an algae that was growing. The ethanol brings enough water.
That's what I was thinking.
All the stuff evaporates off. It leaves water in there, and then it's some really. But I was told it's not. So I'll learn and try to bring you more information on the next Tech Talk Taco Tuesday. We'll talk gas.
It's a tough
bad. Gas is bad.
It's good for my business.
Yeah.
Bad for the customer, but they just need to be conscious of if you could ride your motorcycle every 30 days, and I'm not saying, start it, run it, get the fuel to circulate through the pilot jet, and, ride it up and down your driveway or whatever.
Yeah, it's any little bit of riding through there. There's a little bit for you.
Oh, thank you.
By the way, yeah.
Thank you.
These guys have supported some events that I've been at. The Karma Tequila guys, and this is a really good tequila. So, just so you know, I'm gonna have just a little bit because I don't have any tacos yet, but we might be on a mission to get those later. I have a bunch of rental bikes, a whole lot of them, and for sure,
That's good.
yeah, for sure. Just starting them up once a month makes a big difference. But you're still going to get, if they're not used that much, you're still going to get a little bit of random buildup over time if they're not used. But we can't get non-ethanol gas out here, so or it's difficult to get.
Yeah, and you're talking
In Nevada, where I'm at in Nevada. Yeah,
You can get it.
No, you can't.
Oh, okay.
No, you can't. It's like California.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's coming down on everybody.
Yeah, they're getting the gas delivered from out here. But anyhow, so if you have non-ethanol gas, that helps a lot. But
Yeah, I've heard that True Fuel that's real expensive.
like $16 a gallon in Home Depot or something.
Yeah. You can
that's like race gas.
Yeah, I don't think that's worth it. But I think if you run the bike once a month, and you got to remember too, you got to ride the bike. You can't just pull the choke, run it, and then
you got to get the gas to flow through all the passages.
Yeah, once you shut the choke off, then it's going to suck through that tiny little pilot jet, and if there's some gunk or something sitting down there, hopefully it sucks it through the carburetor.
Yeah,
and
not into the pilot jet, which is one of the most restrictive passages.
Tiny little hole, and those are and the smaller the bike, the smaller the pilot jet.
Yeah. And then we talked about mid bodies on light of the FCR carbs.
And that's from what happens to us here. A guy, he'll spray contact cleaner in his carburetor.
Yeah.
And he explodes all the rubber.
It just melts.
There's something, sea foam
Yep.
they put in their carburetors to unplug them, and it just attacks all the, it's volatile because it's going to try to dissolve varnish in there.
Yep.
But it's also really attacking the rubber, and the rubber is going to expand.
Yep.
And then your mid body's done.
Yeah, and people don't understand, like inside the carburetor, it's not just the bowl. They and a lot of them, some of them come apart in a lot of these really weird ways with security bolts and stuff. And if you can't figure out what's wrong with your carburetor, you've cleaned everything out. It's either something's wedged up in one of these passages, or you didn't realize you had a mid body on your carburetor. And if you saw the O-rings that go into these very intricate O-rings that seal off like 6 or 7 different chambers and allow air to pass through one and gas through another, all you have to do is a little mix, and then you're doing some mystery jetting that.
And you rev the throttle and it carries on. It's just the bike does all weird sorts of things. You just
super inconsistent.
Yeah, you're playing with jets, and it's the mid body.
Yeah,
It's crazy. I think I have one right right here.
Yeah, you want to go grab it
let me
and
see if I got it.
hold the mid body up. While George is doing that, I'm going to kind of scroll through the questions here. Hey, you know who's on the board here? Remember this cat named Robert Gladden? You know that cat? Yeah.
Is that the guy that?
That's the guy that he used to run the counter at Scott's and used to like to put funny bumper stickers on the back of my trucks and the Montrose Police Department cars as well. And I think he got in trouble, or maybe he taught Chris Valdez. Remember that guy? Maybe he taught Chris Valdez into doing that for him. I'm not really sure. Oh, you guys are doing that. If Jimmy says sag that you had to drink, well, sag. Sorry, Bob, you're done. Let's see. San Felipe Bob wants the Jimmy Lewis special here at ESP. That means pay double, especially if you come in and talk. Let's see. George Tarek from old OCS says hello.
Oh, Orange County Suzuki.
Yeah, remember Tarek? Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, he's been regular on our podcast and stuff like that. Let's see. I got a question here. I am 205 pounds. I have a 2013 KTM 350 EXCF, and I ride desert basically where Jimmy rides. No, you don't ride where I ride. I don't ride, and I just yeah. You ever heard of King of the Motos? Southwest Vegas. Would my bike need to be revalved or just springs? 205 on a KTM 350 EXC. That's right at the border, right?
What kind of riding's he doing?
Desert riding.
Desert, rocks, it'll probably work fine.
Yep.
You know, maybe the next rate's up, like 500 springs in it.
Yep. And that's what I do to all mine. My 350s have the what are they? The 6.8 or 7.2s. I put 7.
Now you're talking the older one. Older
yeah.
bike.
Oh, yeah.
So now you got
because the new one's a triple rate. Yeah, triple rate spring. It's hard to keep track of all this crap that I have.
And they're bouncing back and forth too. They're experimenting.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I remember talking about the PDS, and I'm a big fan of PDS. I like it. It's simple. I can get it to work. I understand it, and the fact that second piston can add a very progressive nature to the end of the stroke, which is something that I like. I don't like bottoming. I'd rather have the shock stiffen up. I like it, but I remember when they started out straight rate in the very beginning. Or no, they started out progressive.
Like 98, 99.
Yeah.
Correct.
It was straight rate.
Correct.
Went to progressive around 2004. Did they go to, when did they switch to, or they had a stint for a couple years, right?
Straight rate. Straight rate. Don't hold me to this exactly, but they were real stiff springs 04, like 8.8 on the back. And then in 05, they laid the shock over a little more and dropped the rate to 8.0.
Okay.
And then later on in the later RFS bikes, like your bike had a 7.2 on it.
Yep.
You know, and then they were bouncing back and forth with 4.4, 4.6 fork springs.
But they never went to progressive rate springs, stock.
Boy.
I thought there was like 2 years or something like that where they had that the PDS bikes had a progressive spring in there, and I may be wrong too.
You might be 02, 03-ish maybe.
And it might have been just on like SXs or something. I don't remember, but I remember. So here's where I hadn't ridden some of your stuff. I was at the magazine doing all the magazine things for a while, and you did a bike that we had at Dirt Rider magazine. You built one for one of our torture tests or something, and it was by far and away the best working PDS rear shock I'd ever felt.
I think that was the Thumper Racing bike.
It was
won the 24-hour, right? The 570.
No, I'd have to go back and look. I think it was a torture. I don't know if it was a torture test or which one, because we had a couple different versions of it. But I remember riding one of those bikes, and not only did it work really good at the test, we took it out and trail rode it afterwards. I'm like, this thing's really, really good. And I'm like, George, what'd you do to this thing? Because I knew it had your suspension on it. And he's like, oh, I'm playing around with the progressive spring, right?
That is correct. We were trying them, taking different valving out and seeing if we could get it to work.
So, like 2 weeks later, my suspension was down here. I'm like, hey, put that in this, you know. And I really started liking that. And then roll forward to the newer bikes. I started riding the newer bikes back to straight rate spring. George, we got to go back to this. This is a better setting here. But the new bikes with the progressive stuff is really good. I think they're
doing a fantastic job.
Yeah.
And the springs there, you know, there's a lot of stuff available now. KTM's, they're engineers and they ride. And you know, they're enthusiasts.
Yeah.
And it shows.
Yeah, I think they actually, believe it or not, they come set up pretty well for like the average. And it's funny, in Austria they call it hobby rider. You know, they set them up for, quote, the hobby rider, and they get beat on a little bit lately for the power delivery on some of the bikes. They say, you know, people say the power delivery is too soft, but that's really, you know, they watch the hobby riders ride better with that soft power, make less mistakes, be able to ride more difficult terrain, and because they try different things, and then you put more aggressive or snappier power and stuff, it feels better. It works great in the parking lot. My bike's faster, but
you need to hook up and get up the rocky cliff. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, you know, and that shows you these guys too. They're running softer tires now. You know,
which goes back to our original talking about the stiffer suspension. Correct. You know, being stiffer, and now we want to get some better comfort out of it. And those tires, you know, and there's lots of different brands making like gummy tires and
yeah, the Shinko, the 505 you're seeing, and Kenda's got that the Equilibrium
yep.
that just, I mean, it's like gum.
Yeah. It's and they're the Shinko. It's funny because there's two of them. There's two different sizes, and both those tires work completely different. Like they're a little slightly different tread patterning, and they
505 cheater, and then what 525 more open pattern.
Yeah, I remember we tested them and back and forth, and like one of them I really liked, and the other one I didn't care for. It was almost like they were the same rubber put on two different carcasses, and the one carcass and that rubber just made it feel all wallowy and wasn't that good. But even now, Dunlop is selling their kind of extreme enduro tire to the public.
AT81 gummy something.
Yep.
Yeah.
They have a tire that works pretty good. The Golden tires are kind of doing really well. A lot of people like those.
He's doing a great job. He is out of tires for a month and a half now. That's how well he's doing.
Yeah. Good. I see a set right over here. Got a set.
Those
spoken for, right?
There's a note on them, and nobody gets them. They're that gentleman's.
Yeah. So okay, back to let's see. Common mistakes you see with guys on their suspension.
Common mistakes.
Besides the sag, which we've already hit on, that's probably the most common, right?
Yeah. Let me think here for a second.
Okay, he's gonna
common mistake. I'm gonna say sag's the first. You know, that's hard not to go there. They turn their clickers way too off the center. You know, they're getting way close to all the way in or all the way out.
It's
funny. You'll see a guy, he'll buy stiffer springs on the internet, and then his rebound's all the way in and his compression's all the way out. So what does that tell you? They're way too stiff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He went way too stiff. That's a big common mistake.
Yep. And then also between, and I see this, like, you know, some of the adventure bikes, the more entry level adventure bikes and stuff like that, it don't have a lot of adjustment. And sometimes the adjustment doesn't do anything, or there's not even a clicker.
Yeah.
Or it doesn't really, you know, there's a clicker on there, but it doesn't do much. And even some of the bigger, more expensive adventure bikes, actually the shocks wear out.
They do.
How bad was my 1090 shock?
Yeah, La Brea tar pit. Pretty bad.
Yeah, it'd been needed. I wasn't able to give that bike any time off. I couldn't take the shock off it for 2 weeks, so that's my fault. But it needed it.
Yeah, now let me ask you a question. 950, 990, 1090, what do you like?
Okay. So first off, when we start talking about adventure bikes, I ride them probably a lot different than most people think that I ride them. I do not ride it like a dirt bike, so I don't expect my suspension to be magic. It's a big, heavy bike, and it's going to bottom out if I ride it too fast. I can't get rid of that. So probably the best one I have is my 950, my old KTM 950.
Totally agree.
That you did. If stock wasn't too bad, but everybody was going crazy on going stiff. Remember? Stiffer springs. And I'm like, George, I don't think it needs that much of a stiffer spring. It just needs a little bit. And I don't even think we went stiffer spring. I think we did it mostly with valving. Yeah.
You pretty much. Maybe one. They were like 5.4-ish, 5.6, but you see these guys going 6.6, 6.8, but then they're taking valving out.
Every bike I rode like that just felt like the front end was ricocheting off of everything it hit.
Gets more busy.
Oh, it's busy but so I think the 950 was the best as far as just outright suspension performance, especially more on the aggressive side. But I can't ride that bike any faster than I can ride my current 1090. And but the good thing about the 1090 and the 1290 is they have a true PDS shock on them, so you get that little extra bit of damping kick at the end. And I know my shock needed to be rebuilt, and so hopefully it'll get a little bit better there, and I can get. Because I want to ask for more, but I knew how blown out it was, so I really couldn't make a decision because it wasn't I don't have a standard right now for it. It was just kind of like I was just riding it.
It's got a little sneaky valving in there on the compression, a little more.
So we'll see how that works. And my problem now is if this thing gets any better, then I can't ride my 1190 anymore because it has the non PDS shock on it. The way that those just blow right through the stroke no matter what.
Absolutely.
So I'm kind of trying to negotiate some deals to get another PDS shock so I can put it on my 1190, but we'll see how that goes. And then you'll have more work.
Hey, you mentioned Rob Gladden's on there.
Oh, we got a good Rob Gladden story?
My God, it just won't leave my mind.
Okay.
I'll do a quick abbreviated version of it. He's, at Scott's Performance, we had a shop. We had a front shop, then we had a secret gate, Scott's residence, and then we had a garage in the back where we did all the work. And there was a bathroom in the back.
Oh, no.
And, Rob always had his tacos and hot sauce. So, after lunch, he'd always make his run up. And Scott's son, Ethan, is out on the backyard, and it's winter time.
Yeah.
And Rob comes through the gate, and Ethan's like hosing something off, and Rob's like, I'm I'm up in the shop, and I hear like, "Don't do it," and I hear the garden hose go, and Rob's like, "Okay, you're dead," and he brought Scott's son up there. He's probably 12 or 13, and he grabbed him by his ankles, put him in the toilet, and gave him the swirly. And then Ethan goes running down to the house, and Scott's wife locks the door. And you see the bottle of Prel come out the front door. And she's like, what'd you do? And he told her, and she's like, yeah, I'm not going to help you with that one. You wash your hair out on the lawn. Rob just came down pounding his chest. He was proud of that one.
Yeah, I just always remember the stories of him doing the bumper stickers on the cop cars. So, I think we're having feed drops here. George, your internets aren't good enough. I quit going to my favorite Mexican restaurant for this reason.
Oh, really? Well, they are working on the fiber optic outside.
Okay. Yeah, so we may have a fiber optic issue. I'm not seeing it. Oh, yeah, I see it. That thing dropped off. Ooh, I wonder if that battery went dead. That could be a big problem. Technical difficulties. Hold on. I can fix this in post-production, by the way. That thing's still editing. Good thing. No matter. Let's see.
You want me to check the router?
No, I think my problem.
I can sip this then. No one's on.
Yeah, no one's watching.
This is good.
Yeah, they're doing fiber optic work here. Oh, we might have dropped again. I can see it here a little bit. What in the Thursday is this?
Sorry.
I think we're back. I think Rob Gladden got saved by the fiber optic story for torturing children. That's what his side job was?
He was just getting even.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I think we're back. I'll edit that one out, allegedly, if we need to. So, we're right at an hour. Maybe that was a dropout.
Someone pulled the circuit breaker?
Yeah. So if we're back, let's see. We talked about the common mistakes people make. Let's see. Oh, we're going to talk about blown seals. Remember that?
Okay, fork seals.
Fork seals blown out. A couple shows ago, we talked about the fork seal, the wipers, to clean out the fork seals. Which
pull the wiper down.
Yeah, you pull the wiper down, and then you take the Motion Pro tool that has the seal saver.
That's right. The little hook on it.
The hook on it slides up in there. You can squirt some contact cleaner or something that doesn't eat the rubber up.
WD-40.
WD-40.
Silicone spray.
Okay, those are great things to put in there to help flush some of the debris that might get stuck in there, because generally that's like dirt and debris.
Yeah, and that's like if you rode through mud.
Yep.
Or let's say you do ride through mud, and you park your bike,
and then the mud sticks.
And the mud's dry, and then you push up and down on your fork or go ride again. Guess what happens? It's jammed into the seal.
So that's one thing. But you also brought up something that I'd never heard of before. But I always know that generally when the fork seal really starts leaking, there's a nick on the fork. A rock is kicked up and hit the fork tube. But you also talked about, like, on some of the bikes, the centered brake pads.
Yeah, on a street bike or a adventure bike, a guy's riding on the pavement, and the center in the brake pad is hot. It's metal.
Yep.
And it will stick to the chrome fork tube. It welds itself there, and then when it goes down that far,
like a knife,
it cuts. It's just a razor blade on the fork seal.
Yeah, interesting. Because I know, on the street you're definitely doing hard braking and stuff, and I've seen that material. I've seen it come off in the form of sparks. We've been doing brake tests like on the dry lake bed out at night.
Oh, wow!
Really, and you can actually see the sparks fly off of the brake pads when you're really on it hard. So I can see where those could, because it's spinning backwards, it's throwing them. They're flying everywhere. It's amazing. It's like a little sparklers.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's kind of what what it looks like.
Some of them will stick to the chrome tube, and then if a guy takes the fork apart and it examines the tube, he can work. He can use some 1500 grit or something and remove those.
And you're talking about when you get them in here, you run them on the lathe and
correct.
Clean the slider off, and you see that stuff. So that was something I found interesting. So I did learn something today. That's good.
Yay!
Try to do that every once in a while. But we were talking about springs, and I know San Felipe Bob, our favorite moderator here. He's trying to make jokes in the thing here. He asked a question. Oh, he got a used spring from his buddy, he said, and he's having a hard time with it settling in. Like, he's had to readjust the sag 3 or 4 times, he said. So talk about springs and settling and sag.
What you could do, Bob, right? First thing you do before you put a spring on is you measure it end to end. You get a set length, like 260 millimeters, 270, whatever the spring is, end to end. And then a good rule of thumb, if you're a standard weight guy, you're going to preload that spring about 12 millimeters, half inch.
Yeah.
Right in there. That's a great setting right there. And then
whether it's 260 or 270 or
I was just taking a random
12,
number.
12 millimeters is a good spring preloader. Good.
Yes, 12 millimeters is a really good setting. And then you'll always know if the guy's thinking his spring's shrinking or whatever, he could always take the shock off and unwind the spring and measure it end to end. It's not really getting softer or losing its tension.
Yep.
The only thing we find is, like, when we use brand new springs, the powder coating on the ends will squeeze down. Yep. So say you preloaded at 12 and that powder coating's 2 millimeters thick, you might lose 2 millimeters of preload. And you just, you wind it one more turn up.
So and we talked about this a little bit earlier also. You haven't seen like springs sag out or sack out?
No. Over a long period of time, some, like fork springs, will fatigue a little and shrink 2-3 millimeters.
Yep.
But they're always the same rate. Yep. The rate's always constant. So you could always put a washer in there to bring it back to the same preload, And, then the ride height will be the same. And my argument to that, a lot of guys go, oh, if you tighten your fork springs down and leave the bike tightened down all the time, which I don't recommend with your tie downs. Yeah. But think about your automobile with the valve springs. When you shut it off, half of them are down, half of them are up. And some cars sit for 10, 15 years and you clean the carburetor and the car runs, right?
Yeah.
So the valve spring, no, they don't, unless it's a cheap spring, but the materials today are so good.
Yeah, and I have over time felt springs that just feel like they kind of, I maybe is in my head a little bit, but I did feel like the spring was kind of going dead. I mean, I've kind of had that sensation, but you think about how old that bike was, and was it the spring or was it the bearings? Was it the shock? Was it the shock bearings?
The seized up needle bearings?
The linkage bearing and all that
Time
stuff?
for pivot works.
Yeah, I use that stuff. I have I've got a KTM 500 that has a swing arm pivot bearing that now it's past its life cycle.
Yeah, and when you get a new bike, that bike should come apart and get greased. Real good grease on all those needle bearings. And how many times have you gone to adjust your chain? Or I get a guy that brings in a bike, hey, I need new chain and sprocket. Or, he just brings in his bike for a rear tire. Yeah. And his chain's really loose and we go to turn the adjusters. Guess what?
Seized in the swing arm.
Just locked up. And that, to me, that's
one of the things we do with all our bikes is pull those out and put anti-seize.
And that's just that's lazy and poor maintenance and disrespecting your bike,
I have a lot of disrespected bikes.
Yeah, but yours are a lot better than what we see.
Yeah. So Bob's keeping the SAG drink thing going. I think we lost something. Hey, you know what? I'm blaming Chris Real for blowing up the internet feeds. He said he texted me a photo of a gummy carburetor, and that was on the phone that I was using.
He overloaded it?
He overloaded my phone, and it shut down. That's all I'm blaming. Chris, thank you. Hey, we got to get that fuel injected bike that you're playing around with out to the Dirt Bike Test World headquarters, and we're gonna tune that thing up. I want to play with a fuel tuner on a fuel injected 2-stroke. So
do you have one?
I do not have one. That's my next bike purchase. Is I'm going to buy I think I'm gonna get a KTM 300 EXC. I think that's what I want.
They sell a programmer for it?
Yeah.
KTM does.
No. JD does.
Oh, okay. So his goes between the black box and the throttle body.
So it just interrupts the signal, and I have them on a lot of my 4-strokes and stuff, just the emissions ones, just to give it a little more fuel here or there. Actually, I run them kind of lean. I actually take some fuel out in some spots, which everybody's like, why do you do that? And well, I compensate with the pump squirt fit function. They're pretty cool. So
just got to learn how to use it.
David wants to know, do I really feel 2 millimeters? No, sometimes, you got to work with what you got. Bob thinks that blow a seal is a joke. Let's see. Hey, George, ESP is great suspension people. That's true.
Who is this?
Stephen Walker.
Stephen, we know. He's Coyote Adventure Tours.
Okay.
Great. He actually is a great guy, and he's crazy busy doing those tours.
Yeah. I probably know him, too. I just can't remember people. Let's see. What about race gas only? He was asking about the carburetor question. Sometimes the race gas has bad stuff in it, too.
And it turns to like blue jelly in there when it sits.
Yeah.
And it gives me a headache, so don't bring me a bike with race gas. I hate that stuff. And it's overpriced.
Let's see. Somebody was over on the Baja thread. I don't know. I think we answered most of the questions. I think we're doing pretty good. So we've gone our full hour here without too many blow-ups. George, I want to thank you for coming on here. You've been a huge resource. I learned something. I learned probably 3 or 4 things today, but a lot of it was off camera when you tell me what an idiot I am.
Never.
Because, I rode KTMs back when they were like, look at them now. They're so junky.
What blows me away is how good they are now.
Yeah.
How did they do that?
But yeah, and they just, it's like you were saying, it seems like there's a bunch of guys there that are smart engineers and they ride and they work on bikes and it's stuff that, they're there's obviously a good collective there, because when they'll make mistakes and they'll make stuff that isn't right, but it doesn't take very long for them to fix that. Not like this is my way and it's the only way and we're going to do this until this model runs out.
They're incredible. I mean, just the little stuff, and they're listening to the people and even, say, a mechanic. So, for example, the two-stroke, you know how you check the oil level in the trans?
Yeah.
And the brake pedal spring was in the way?
Yeah.
So what did they do? Instead of the spring being round, they made it oval-shaped. Now you can get your T-handle in there. I mean, just that little stuff that makes a mechanic happy.
I thought they made it oval so that it would break every third ride.
Oh, maybe they got to work on the manufacturer. But to have
that was a big problem for a long time. I still have like 5 or 6 spare of those, because they were, every test bike we had would break the spring, but I think they fixed it. Who knows?
But it's just incredible. I mean,
just the attention to detail.
Well, you can change your air filter without a tool.
Yeah.
You pull the side panel off and you pull the air filter. You don't even need a screw. You don't need anything.
Yeah.
No tools.
Yep.
I mean, it's crazy how good that is.
Yeah, that's the way things. It's obviously easy to do. They've been doing it for a long time, and they've had really good ones, and they constantly make it a little bit better and a little bit better, and then people were not putting them in there right, so they made it like almost impossible to put it in there wrong.
Yeah.
So,
They're killing it. I'm seeing 10 KTMs to every Japanese bike right now.
Yeah.
And, so now we're getting, it's like, God.
But they were junk, George. I specifically remember you telling me, why don't you just get a Kawasaki? Why don't you go race a Kawasaki? You would do better.
What year was that?
1990.
So, then I go off on my own, and in 2000, they come out with that RFS. And what'd they do? They imported 500 bikes,
yep,
all hand assembled. You still get one of those.
I have one.
Have you ever rebuilt the motor?
I have the very first one that came over here.
Did you have to rebuild the motor?
Yeah, after 100,000 miles, I think we did it. We did a rebuild for a story in the magazine, which we didn't need to do, but we kind of rebuilt it then. I think I just put rings and intake valves in it, and it's this thing's south of 100,000 miles.
They're incredible, and those first ones that came over, Brent Laidlaw, his brother Jerry has one, and he still brings me that bike, and when you run it, it's incredible.
It sounds brand new and
it's never been apart.
Yeah.
They don't ride a lot,
yeah,
but it's just amazing how they did that first round of them, and now we've got all these new ones that have evolved from that.
Yeah. And those go back to the old, I remember seeing the very first Husaberg, which was like Husky had made these kind of like lightweight 4-strokes that didn't start and were air cooled. And
they were going after what, the XR600?
They were trying, but the XR600 was a giant tank, and they were trying to make them small and compact. And you just look at the evolution, and it's amazing that those were so. The original Husaberg motors, they took that Husky motor and shrunk it even more, and then the ignitions were getting better, so they would start, and they're figuring out the carburation better, figuring out pumper carbs, and now we're fuel injected, which is just push button and go. Yeah,
and I heard KTM bought Husaberg for the head design, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then they came out with that RFS.
Yeah. There was a lot of things, good designs that they wanted to incorporate, and Husky is what Husaberg probably was going to be, maybe, but that when they were gifted Husky essentially
from BMW,
from the Germans, because they went down a path that didn't seem to work out, and then now you've got a whole extra version of KTM's, something. Now you can have a linkage if you want it on your EXC. It's just white, and it's called an FE. Which ones are FE, right?
FE's the license plate model.
Yeah, FE, FC, FX.
They're doing a great job.
So, anyways, enough KTM advertising here.
Sorry.
No, it's good.
Just fun to work on.
Yeah. Hopefully you fixed our Honda CR450X.
Well, I'm sure you'll let everybody know.
Yeah, I'll let everybody know how that works. We after so I rode Johnny Campbell's race bike. The one that won the Mint 400, and I noticed some things about their suspension. That was very specific race suspension set up for guys that are way faster than me, but I like some characteristics of it. I mentioned it to George, and he did some tricks that he knows that could could get that kind of a feel. So we'll see if that works out. And other than that, I don't have any other bikes for you right now. I'm on it. I still have a surplus of spare shocks for my other ones. So
Can't wait.
yeah. Okay. Well, that's about it. We're going to wrap it up here from
La Crescenta.
Where am I?
Beautiful La Crescenta.
La Crescenta, California. We will see you probably next Tuesday. I don't know when this one's going to go up. We might bank this one for a while, or maybe it's going to go up and we'll just start giving me a little fudge time on getting these things edited. Bob, sorry, the feed dropped. It was because somebody else texted me.
On your phone.
On my phone. But, I just don't have enough technology or equipment. So we'll see you guys around, and I will catch you out on the trail. For George here at ESP, thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.